Olympian Eileen Gu says she feels like a punching bag amid backlash for competing with China over US. American-born Team China skier Eileen Gu responded to the global criticism she has received during the Milan-Cortina Winter Olympics. Her decision to compete for China despite being born in the US has made her a target for Americans and others across the world, with Vice President J.D. Vance chiming in by saying he hopes athletes born here would want to compete with the United States of America. "I'm flattered. Thanks, J.D. That's sweet," Gu said of Vance's comments, per USA Today. Gu was asked if she currently feels like a bit of a punching bag for a certain strand of American politics, after her competition on Thursday. "I do," she said, per USA Today. "So many athletes compete for a different country. People only have a problem with me doing it because they kind of lump China into this monolithic entity, and they just hate China. So it's not really about what they think it's about. And also, because I win. Like if I wasn't doing well, I think that they probably wouldn't care as much, and that's okay for me. People are entitled to their opinions." Gu has previously said she was physically assaulted for her decision to represent China. "The police were called. I've had death threats. I've had my dorm robbed," Gu told The Athletic. "I've gone through some things as a 22-year-old that I really think no one should ever have to endure, ever." Eileen Gu garners backlash for commenting on Trump's statement while representing China. Gu will compete in the women's freestyle skiing halfpipe final on Thursday after winning silvers in her first two events. It will be the climax of an Olympics defined by immense global criticism for Gu. The Wall Street Journal reported last week that Gu and Zhu Yi, a fellow American-born figure skater who now competes for China, were paid a combined $6.6 million by the Beijing Municipal Sports Bureau in 2025 for striving for excellent results in qualifying for the 2026 Milan Winter Olympics. In all, the two were reportedly paid nearly $14 million over the past 3 years. Vance weighed in on the controversy surrounding Gu in a Tuesday interview on Fox News, The Story with Martha McCallum. "I certainly think that someone who grew up in the United States of America who benefited from our education system, from the freedoms and liberties that makes this country a great place, I would hope they want to compete with the United States of America," Vance said on The Story with Martha McCallum. "So, I'm going to root for American athletes. I think part of that is people who identify themselves as Americans. That's who I'm rooting for in this Olympics. On the world's highest peaks, the air is thin and the margins are thinner. A skier launches off a half-pipe wall, twists against gravity, and lands on a blade's edge no wider than a finger. The crowd roars, judges scribble, cameras flash. In that suspended moment, between takeoff and landing, there is no country, no commentary, no flag. There is only a body in motion and a will sharpened by years of repetition. But when the skis stop moving, the world rushes back in. Eileen Gu knows this better than most. An Olympian at an age when many are still discovering who they are, Gu has performed under a spotlight that illuminates more than athletic excellence. Born in the United States to a Chinese mother, raised between languages and landscapes, she made a decision that few athletes ever confront so publicly, to compete for China instead of the United States. The choice brought her medals, fame, and opportunity, but also criticism, suspicion, and a tidal wave of commentary from both sides of the Pacific. In interviews, she has described feeling like a punching bag amid the backlash. The phrase is striking in its simplicity. A punching bag does not punch back. It absorbs. It swings slightly with each blow, then returns to center, waiting for the next strike. For an athlete whose life has been defined by balance, perhaps that image is painfully apt. To understand her predicament, one must first imagine what it means to belong to more than one place. For children of immigrants, identity is often a braided rope, threads of language, food, memory, expectation. You learn to switch accents depending on which grandparent is listening. You celebrate different holidays with equal sincerity. You are told, sometimes subtly, sometimes bluntly, to choose. Yet how does one choose between halves of a whole? When Gu decided to represent China in the Winter Olympics, she spoke about inspiring young girls there to ski, about growing the sport, about honoring her mother's heritage. To her, the decision may have felt expansive, an embrace of all that she is. To many observers, it appeared divisive, even disloyal. Social media, that vast coliseum of instantaneous judgment, turned her personal calculus into a geopolitical referendum. Some accused her of opportunism, suggesting she sought greater sponsorship or easier paths to gold. Others questioned her patriotism, as if national allegiance were a binary switch. In China, she was celebrated as a prodigy returning to the motherland, in parts of America, she was portrayed as someone turning her back. And so she found herself in a curious position, hailed as a hero in one narrative, scrutinized as a traitor in another. The modern Olympian is not merely an athlete, she is a symbol. Medals are counted not just as personal triumphs but as national tallies. Flags are raised, anthems played, narratives crafted. The Olympic Games, for all their rhetoric of unity, are deeply entwined with national pride. For someone like Gu, whose identity resists neat categorization, the symbolism can feel heavy. When she stands on the podium, which anthem echoes more loudly in her heart? Which childhood memory does she reach for? Does she have to choose? In calling herself a punching bag, Gu exposes the emotional cost of existing at the intersection of two powerful nations. Criticism from strangers can be dismissed, criticism from millions cannot. Each tweet, each headline, each talking head on television adds another swing of the fist. It is easy to forget that behind the medal count is a young woman navigating adulthood in real time. There is a peculiar irony in the backlash she faces. Globalization has woven the world together more tightly than ever. Children grow up with friends across continents, with parents from different cultures, with passports that do not fully contain their identities. Yet when one of them rises to prominence, we demand clarity. Where do you stand? Who do you represent? Which side are you on? The question itself reveals our discomfort with ambiguity. Athletes have long been vessels for national stories. During the Cold War, Olympic competitions were proxy battles between ideologies. Victories were touted as proof of superiority. Even today, medal tables are scrutinized like scoreboards in a much larger game. But Gu's story complicates that script. She is not a defector nor a pawn, she is a product of both worlds. Her bilingual interviews, her ease in moving between cultures, suggest not a divided loyalty but a layered one. She embodies the possibility that identity can be additive rather than subtractive. Yet nuance rarely trends. To feel like a punching bag is to be reduced to a surface onto which others project their frustrations. For some Americans, her choice may symbolize anxiety about global competition, about shifting power dynamics, about questions of loyalty in a connected age. For some Chinese observers, her success might be woven into narratives of national resurgence. In both cases, she becomes a canvas. Lost in the noise is the athlete herself, the girl who fell on icy slopes and got back up, the teenager balancing schoolwork with world championships, the competitor who feels the same fear and exhilaration before a run as any other skier. There is courage in launching into the air at 20 feet high. There is another kind of courage in absorbing criticism without lashing out. Gu has often responded to controversy with measured words, emphasizing that she hopes to bridge cultures rather than divide them. She has resisted being boxed into simplistic answers about citizenship or politics. That restraint is its own form of athleticism, a discipline of language instead of muscle. The metaphor of the punching bag also suggests endurance. A bag that cannot absorb blows will tear, one that does can withstand round after round. But even the sturdiest bag is not immune to wear. Emotional resilience, especially under global scrutiny, is not infinite. What does it cost a young athlete to read strangers debating her worth? To see her motives dissected by commentators who have never strapped on skis? To know that every performance will be interpreted not just as a sport but as a statement? And yet, she continues to compete. Perhaps the slope offers relief. On snow, gravity is honest. It does not care about passports. It responds only to physics and preparation. A well-executed trick earns points because of its difficulty in execution, not because of the flag stitched to the jacket. In those seconds of flight, she is not a symbol. She is simply an athlete. There is something instructive in her predicament. As the world becomes more interconnected, stories like hers will multiply. Children of mixed heritage will stand on stages, in laboratories, in boardrooms, carrying more than one cultural inheritance. The pressure to simplify themselves for others' comfort will persist. Gu's experience invites a different response, to allow complexity. To accept that love for one country need not negate affection for another. To recognize that identity is not a zero-sum equation. Criticism, especially in matters tangled with national pride, will not disappear. Public figures will continue to serve as lightning rods. But perhaps the conversation can shift from accusation to curiosity. Why did she choose this path? What does it mean to her? What can her story teach us about belonging in a global age?